Hello, my fellow Americans. It is the 17th of April edition of A Quiet Rage. It's been a minute since I've done one proper, well out of practice, so I made sure to make notes. So right out of the gate, if you're MAGA, I hope you're gonna stick around. I have questions for you in about the middle to second third of this video here. To start with, obviously there's been a lot of news about tariffs lately. They're on, they're off, they're on again, and they're off again. This is no way to run things. This is chaos. So if you're having trouble making sense of all of this, I would urge you to keep in mind a few things. One, the president of these United States, President Trump, is a complete moron. He's an idiot. He's a terrible businessman. You're getting tired of hearing it, I'm sure. But he bankrupted a casino. I don't know how else to illustrate what a terrible businessman he is. He bankrupted a casino. He tried to sell steaks. He tried to sell vodka. What else? If he was a good businessman, Trump steaks and Trump vodka would still be thing. People would still be buying those. But he's not, so we aren't. So yeah, he's a moron. He's a terrible businessman, and he is surrounded by sycophants who will not say, Mr. President, that's not a great idea. They just won't say no to him. And that's the way he likes it. He doesn't actually want smart people in the room with him. He wants to be the smartest person in the room, or at least think he is, or have people tell him that he is. But as I mentioned, he's a moron. MAGA, please stick with me. We haven't gotten to the question part yet. So that's tariffs. Briefly, who knows? We may revisit that at a later date in more detail. I will actually, now that I think of it, I'm gonna put a link to a video for a show on HBO Max, or Max, whatever it's called nowadays. Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. He's got an episode that talks about it in much greater detail and with much more, frankly, intelligence than I am able to. He's got a research staff. I just have myself and Beyonce's electric internet to look things up. So I'll link that in the description. But I wanna move to my main topic for this episode, which is a man whose name we all must know by now, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Not the only person illegally deported by the Trump administration to a prison in El Salvador, but has become sort of the face of the whole thing. Information about this young man is not difficult to find. He has his own Wikipedia page, from which I will now read. He's been here since he was 16 years old. He came here illegally, granted, in 2011. In 2019, an immigration judge granted him what's called withholding of removal status. It's an alternative to granting someone asylum, but it's in the similar vein. And he was granted that status due to an apparent danger that he would face, which apparently he proved to the court, danger he would face from gang violence if he were to be sent back to his native country of El Salvador. He has since lived here and worked legally in the United States. When he was deported, he was living in Maryland with his wife and children, who are American citizens, and was complying with annual check-ins with U.S. Immigration and Customs. Doing everything right. Yeah, he came here illegally, but was granted status that allowed him to stay legally in the United States until March 15th, when he was illegally deported. And I don't even think deported is the right word. Transported, maybe, or kidnapped, because he was not given due process at all. My great-grandfather, Arthur, immigrated to the United States after the Great War. Now, I want to make it clear, in no way am I trying to deputize Great-Grandpa Art into my argument. I never actually met the man. Fairly certain he died before I was ever born. So even if I did meet him, I was a wee child, and I never had the chance to talk to the man about his politics. All I have are second and third hand stories from my other relatives on my mom's side of the family. But he immigrated to the United States. He moved to the Midwest. He moved to southern Minnesota. And he got married to his girlfriend, who was also immigrated to the United States. They had several children, my grandfather being one of them, my grandfather Friedrich. And he ran a Sinclair gas station. You know, the one with the big green dinosaur? He ran a Sinclair gas station in Tyler, Minnesota. And by all accounts, lived a productive, upstanding American life. So, here come the questions, MAGA, if you're still around, if you're still with me. Because given what I've told you, I would think that you would say, yeah, Great-Grandpa Art sounds like he did everything right. Sounds like a fine, upstanding American citizen. Never broke the law as far as we know. Ran a business. Went to church. Raised a family. The American story, right? The American dream. Would it change your opinion, MAGA? I'm just curious to know that he served in the armed forces, in the Army specifically, during the Great War. Would that change your mind about my great-grandpa Art? Would it change your mind to know that he was taken prisoner early in the war, and I believe spent the remainder of the war in a prisoner camp? Would that change how you felt about my great-grandfather? Would it change your mind to know that the army that he served in, and these are his dog tags. I am the custodian of his dog tags. An honor, I have to say. These are over 100 years old, after all. These are his actual dog tags that saw battle. And this is his prisoner of war tag. He was prisoner number 21090. Would it change your mind? Would it make you feel any differently, MAGA, about my great-grandfather to know that this prisoner tag was given to him by the British? Because the army that he served in, the army that gave him these dog tags, was the Imperial German Army, the Kaiser's army. My great-grandfather took up arms against the United States and her allies in the First Great War. Does that change how you feel about my great-grandfather at all? It's a valid question, isn't it? Because Mr. Garcia is alleged to have been a member, or still be a member, apparently, of MS-13. An allegation which is unsubstantiated, by the way, was never proved. An allegation that was made by an anonymous source, an anonymous tip of some sort. And the lead detective who attested to this allegation was suspended during the investigation of Mr. Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The detective was suspended due to serious misconduct allegations. Now, my grandfather, during having immigrated to the, my great-grandfather, having immigrated after the Great War and being German, and living in a small town in Minnesota, there was, as there was almost everywhere in the United States, anti-German sentiment. And apparently someone or multiple someones either disliked Great-Grandpa Art or actually thought that he was a shady character and informed on him. And we know this because men from the FBI came to his house, my great-grandfather's house, and questioned him, and even went up and looked in the attic at one point during the questioning to see if the alleged radio or listening device, whatever spy paraphernalia, was alleged to be in the attic by this person or persons who made the allegations. And there was no such listening device, no such radio or transmitting device of any sort. And the FBI, satisfied, went on their way and left my great-grandfather and his family be. A man who was known to have actually taken up arms against the United States and or her allies was given due process, was questioned and left alone. After nothing substantial was found, nothing to substantiate any allegations against him was found. Sadly, I don't know if it's permanent, but I've already lost a friend on Facebook because of a conversation regarding this illegal deportation. I'll call it, if I must call it a deportation, I will call it illegal, because that's what it is. Mr. Garcia was not given due process. I've had a couple people try and tell me that illegal immigrants don't get due process. Well, that's not true. Not even a little bit. How do I know that? Well, I know that because I'm about to read to you the 14th Amendment, Section 1. It reads as follows. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person, not citizen, person, of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Not citizen, person. When I was in the Navy, before we would make a port visit in a foreign port, we would get a port brief, and an important, maybe the most important slide in the PowerPoint of that port brief was, and still is for those on active duty today, what is called the Status of Forces Agreement, which tells you what will happen to you, basically, if you get arrested by the police, either military or civilian police, in the foreign country you are about to visit. Because being in the Navy, being in the military, the United States military, doesn't give you any sort of immunity when you visit another country. You are subject to the laws of that country. You are subject to the jurisdiction of that country. The same is true here in the United States. And if you expect people to follow the laws, when they break or are accused of breaking the laws of your country, you don't get to negate the laws. The laws still apply, and so does the justice system. So does due process apply to those persons within your borders. So there's no such thing as an illegal immigrant, an immigrant, illegal or otherwise, if you're here on vacation, if you're here on a student visa. The laws still apply to you, and due process is still afforded to you. It is still your right because you are a person. That's how that works. There's no negation. The president doesn't get to do it. The Secretary of State doesn't get to do it. The law stands, or should, if we were still a proper country. So as I said on Facebook to start the argument that lost me the one friend who told me that he was a registered Democrat, he just didn't give a shit about Mr. Abrego Garcia. And I informed him that was moral bankruptcy. And now we're not friends anymore. And that's unfortunate. But I'm not going to back down. And neither should anyone else who believes that due process is important, even for immigrants, illegal or otherwise, in this country. Because if you can take due process away from one group, why can't you take it away from anybody? The Trump administration is claiming that Mr. Garcia is a terrorist. They have provided zero evidence to indicate terrorist activity. But if you want, I mean, I'm sure somebody could argue in one way or another that me saying that President Donald J. Trump is a fucking moron. I mean, maybe you could make an argument, perhaps, that that's. I had somebody try and tell me that it was treasonous. It's not. Dissent is patriotic. Civil dissent is patriotic, and that's what I'm doing here. If they can do it to him, they can do it to whomever they want. The president keeps saying that people like me are radical left lunatics, Marxist, socialist lunatics. All he has to do is say that I'm a terrorist too. And I get fitted for some nice shiny bracelets and off I go. Does what I'm doing here seem like it's rises to that level? I would think not. But if he can do it to one person, if he can do it to one group, there's to take away without due process his right, their rights, then why can't he do it to anybody else? That's a question for you, MAGA, if you're still here. Cheers to the Republic and to my great-grandpa Art. So what can we do? Stand firm in your conviction that due process is still a right that should be afforded to every person within the borders of these United States, and defend that position against anybody that would argue against you. Also, I'm gonna put a link to a short video called 20 Lessons on Tyranny. Give it a watch. Think about it, and then watch it a second time. And share it with anyone who you think needs to see it, needs to hear it. It's, like I said, it's a short video. It's only, where is it? It's only 10.5 minutes long. And there is no mention of anyone's name. The tyrant is not named. The source of the tyranny is not given a name. And these lessons could be read at any time. 1914, 1984, 2025, 2064. They don't name anybody. They just tell you what to be on the lookout for, what to pay attention to. That's all I have for you this week. I intend to be a custodian of these dog tags. And I have some other. Here's his campaign medal, 1914 to 1918, First Great War. I've got shoulder epaulets. I don't keep these things because I think German history is super cool and fun. I keep these because I want to honor my great-grandfather. Like I said, I don't know what his politics were. I don't know why he left Germany after the war and came to the United States, but I'm certainly glad that he did. I wouldn't be here had he not. But clearly there was something about Germany that bothered him. And he saw America as a place to go where that which bothered him about Germany would not occur, would not be present. At this moment, that is not true. This country is currently shooting itself in the foot repeatedly, economically and diplomatically. We have alienated our oldest and best friends and our closest ally, physically, allies, Mexico and Canada. This will not be a permanent state. Someday, President Trump will leave the Oval Office. Someday. And we're going to have a lot of work to do to fix all the shit that he's going to break between now and that day. But we have to remember what it was like before he got there, and we have to be dedicated to doing the work. I'm not going to forget, and I'm ready right now to do the work, and I'll be ready when that day comes. Because for all the shortcomings of this country, and there are a lot, there are ideals to which we strive. Ideals that make people like my great-grandfather and like Mr. Abrego Garcia want to come here for a better life, to escape violence, to escape economic hardship, to escape religious persecution. For a better life, they come. And that better life is still a worthy goal, and something that should be afforded to those willing to work for it. Keep your powder dry and keep your quiet rage. Good night, my fellow Americans.